In today's unboxing, we take a look at Kingdom Death Monster. Here we have the core game. It is the 1.5 edition, and this thing is absolutely massive. Let's take a look.
There are hobbyists among us, geniuses with the ability to play any game they want to. In 1978, a corporation known as The Interior isolated a young hobbyist named John and exploited his genius for their entertainment.
Then one day, their hobbyist ran away. Once upon a time, there was a place of carved faces. A man with a lantern lay sleeping a dreamless sleep. The man knew nothing. One day, the man woke up. He rubbed the dried ink caked over his eyes and opened them. Around him, he saw other people stirring, and beyond, a horizon of unbroken darkness. A woman approached the man with the lantern. Her soft hand reached out to him. They had no words. They were a mystery to each other. Suddenly, a monster emerged from the darkness, its eyes wild with hunger. It attacked. The people were no match for the monster. It tore their flesh and crushed their bones with its teeth. Some it devoured whole. Overcome with terror and grief, the man with the lantern collapsed to the ground. Cold stone noses pushed into his side. There was no escape. But the man did not want to die. Desperately grasping at the stone faces, he felt a crack and tore at it with all his might. A piece of stone came free. It was sharp and deadly. The man with the lantern scrambled to his feet, his weapon clenched in his fist. He took a deep breath and roared into the dark. Somewhere in the place of stone faces, nameless men and women stand together. They have nothing but the need to survive and a lantern to light their struggle.
Well, this is Kingdom Death Monster, the core game, the 1.5 edition. I will tell you, this will probably be a more in-depth unboxing, a little more critical of an unboxing than I normally do, because this game is so massive and has one of the higher price points when it comes to board games. We can see one of the things that I really do like about this is how gorgeously simple the whole presentation here is. The box itself is basically just a flat black box where you can see the faint impression of the logo here on the front. Then when we open it up to turn it on its side, we can see that this is Monster, so it is because this is Kingdom Death, the monster game. I don't know a whole lot about the Kingdom Death series, so I don't know if Kingdom Death is an overall IP and then Monster is like this one game and maybe they have different ones, or there was plans to have maybe different versions. I don't know. So I don't know if this game is Kingdom Death Monster or if this game is just Monster kind of by Kingdom Death. But so that was one thing I always kind of found very interesting. And on the side here we can see that it is the 1.5 edition. And then here again we have Monster. And probably 1.5, yep, 1.5 once again on the other side. As far as the black goes, once again, we have very little on here. We just have some of the gorgeous artwork that we have in here. What it is, Kingdom Death Monster version 1.5, designed in New York, made in China. Kingdom Death, again, here we can just see it is just Kingdom Death is the website for you to go to. And in big, bold, we have ages 17 plus, mature content for players 1 to 4. Includes variant rules for up to 6 players. That is pretty awesome. So technically, I guess it is a 1 to 6 player, but really it's designed for 1 to 4. And I believe that usually goes in because you play the game with usually 4 characters in your party. So then you would have one person that either controls all 4 of them, or you just divvy them up for who it goes. Normally, this is the part where I would then, kind of show the box a little bit, show, some of the components are usually sitting on the box. Usually there's a little bit of a lore in here, and I will read that lore. But once again, they are being super simple here with their box, not giving anything away with what you might find in here. Just a little bit of artwork with your 4 initial survivors that land, the scary ground of faces on the ground. Again, it's beautifully simple. The other thing that we notice right here off the rip is how thick this box is. It looks like this thing is going to be pretty sturdy. And at a game that weighs in at what they say over 19 pounds, so it was in that somewhere between the 19 and 20 pound range, this thing potentially can take a beating. One thing that I will probably try to do towards the end is pull this out and maybe pull out some of my other large scale boxes like City of Kings or Madara, so we can kind of compare sizes here, because everybody loves a good comparison. Let's go ahead and flip it back to the front so we can open it up and take a look inside. Wow. Miniature assembly. So by the sounds of it, the very first thing up that we have are going to be the miniatures in the game. And that is one of the kind of interesting aspects of this one, is this game is a little more not just on the board game side of things, but is also on the hobby side of things, where you actually have to put together all the miniatures that are in here. So especially for somebody like me who is into that part of the hobby, and into the building of things and the modification of things, I actually kind of like the sound of that, though having to put these miniatures together might be a put off on some people, especially ones that are like, hey, I just spent $400 on this game, now I also have to put it together. But again, that is kind of part of it, part of that aspect of the game, where this also adds a hobby side, a hobby element to the game. We will go ahead and take a look at this last. This will be one of the last things we take a look at. So up next we have the boards, and wow, these things are huge. So here is our settlement board, because the game does have multiple areas that you'll kind of play through, where you go through your settlement, where you kind of like build your characters and modify them, and then you have the hunt, where you go out and try to find something that you're going to battle, and then of course that battle, which is kind of like a skirmish. So it has a lot going for a lot of different elements to the game. Next we have the tokens, and then the kind of like a smaller version of that board that we just looked at, but it's kind of like your reference board. We'll go ahead and open that up here in a second so we can take a look at all of those. What next? What do we have here? And then this would be, here we go. This we have the battle board. And it looks like mine may have gotten a little bit of a ding right here. We'll have to take a look at that. But let's see here. I do like how everything is kind of wrapped. Again, they are trying to protect everything. But as we can see, stuff still happens. There we go. And then hidden under there, and this I was actually kind of expecting to be more of a board. Let me see, where are you? There you are. I was expecting that to be more of this cardboard style, but it is actually just a very thin piece of, I don't know, thin cardboard. I was kind of seeing this ahead of time. I was expecting it to be this thick. Oh, and then here, again, that hunt tracker that's on the opposite side of that settlement board. And then nothing on the back of that. Because this is the board that you use alongside this one for tracking the monster that you're fighting, all of his stuff. But then here is the main board for the game. And as we can see, it is absolutely huge. Again, mine, I don't know how well that comes. You can see it got some kind of a ding right there. But this thing is huge, because where here is where you are placing all of the monster persistent traumas that it's going to get, hopefully, as you fight. But I mean, that's just, and then kind of the ground that we can see, just the faces on all the ground. Again, it goes back to that being beautifully simplistic. This is your board. You're going to use this same board for every battle you have. You'll just add some terrain here and there, but this is it. It doesn't matter, where, what time of year, anything like that. This is it. Again, just super simplistic, but very beautiful in its own right. The back, nothing added, nothing extra. And then up next, we have, oh my dear Lord, just a barrage of cards. So we will go through those separately. And then here are our character sheets. Now what I'm probably going to do is laminate this and get some wet or dry erase markers and do that, and just kind of go through there. But there, that is that. Let's see. There we go. And then axe. Open that here in a minute and take a look at. Oh, these are our character resource boards. That's what that is now. There we go. Open that up so we can get rid of the glare. And so here's our survivor gear, so we can see where you can place your gear on it and gives a little bit. And so 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. So it'll be interesting to look in that and see how this could variant to 6, because you're definitely only going into battle with 4 survivors at a time. So I don't know how we'd upgrade it to a 6-player variant. And then here are our settlement sheets right here, so we can watch the settlement. And again, this will probably be one of those ones that I try to laminate, and then it is double-sided. Let's see here. Let's just take one of these off. And see that. And then I don't know if it is. Let's see, were you double-sided? I don't think you are. No, you're not. And then the instruction book, and that has all of the lore and all the components. Let's see. Try to get into this. There we go. And this is just like the cover, that same bit. And then it's got some nice little markers on it. So here we'll try to be super careful. Oh, that is so, again, I mean, it's just, again, super simple, but gorgeous, and especially how eerie it is. Version 1.5, the contents of the book. And your introduction. Now this, because this has all of the play, a lot of the play material in it, I will be very careful not to spoil anything. So we'll flip through this here a little bit to kind of go through the introduction, the rules, kind of look at that a little bit, but then stop, go through the rest of the unboxing, and then come back to this later for people who do want to see more of the book. But I will leave that towards the end of the unboxing. So if you do want to say spoiler free, you can. And here it kind of shows the different aspects. So you have, you're going around your showdown, which is the actual battle, kind of the skirmish element of the game, the hunt, a very simplistic version of a dungeon crawl where you move down that hunt track to find whatever monster you're going to be facing. And then of course the settlement phase where you're doing character building, world building, that kind of stuff. Then it shows the dice. See, and then here again it even says Monster is played. So I'm thinking this game is actually Monster by Kingdom Death. But everybody calls it Kingdom Death Monster. Once upon a time, there was a place of carved stone faces. A man with a lantern lay sleeping a dreamless sleep. The man knew nothing. One day, the man woke up. He rubbed the dried ink caked over his eyes and opened them. Around him, he saw other people stirring, and beyond, a horizon of unbroken darkness. A woman approached the man with the lantern. Her soft hand reached out to him. They had no words. They were a mystery to each other. Suddenly, a monster emerged from the darkness, its eyes wild with hunger. It attacked. The people were no match for the monster. It tore their flesh and crushed their bones between its teeth. Some it devoured whole. Overcome with terror and grief, the man with the lantern collapsed to the ground. Cold stone noses pushed into his side. There was no escape. But the man did not want to die. Desperately grasping at the cold stone faces, he felt a crack and tore at it with all his might. A piece of the stone came free. It was sharp and deadly. The man with the lantern scrambled to his feet, his weapon clenched in his fist. He took a deep breath and roared into the darkness. Somewhere in the place of stone faces, nameless men and women stand together. They have nothing but a need to survive and a lantern to light their struggle. The first story. The first story is a prologue to Monster. It will teach you the fundamentals of the game. Always start the game with the first story. This story picks up after the awakening of the survivors. Before they can take stock of their surroundings, the survivors must fight for their lives against the vicious white lion. The game is designed around 4 survivors. To begin playing, you will have fewer than 4 players. Some or all the players should create more than 1 survivor, so 4 survivors are represented. You will need to assemble the 4 starting survivor miniatures and the white lion miniature. Although this is a prologue, Kingdom Death is a dangerous place. Even the starting survivors can perish before the story truly begins. What is in the prologue? The first story is designed to guide the 4 survivors through their first encounter with a monster. If they prevail, they will create a brand new settlement. Players are meant to play as they read and learn the game. By the end of the prologue, you should understand the core rules of gameplay and complete your first showdown. Create your settlement and be ready for campaign play. During the prologue, questions may arise that are not completely addressed in this section. The aim of the prologue is to get you playing, so feel free to make decisions and mistakes. Full game rules that follow the prologue address the deeper nuances of the gameplay once you've gotten the hang of the basics. Start assembling miniatures. For Survivor Miniatures, The White Lion. More detailed instructions can be found online at buildkingdomdeath.com. I'm a little surprised they don't actually have building instructions here within this book, but this right here is the point that I will stop. We will go through more of the book later in the unboxing, but once we get past this part, now we are going to be starting to get into the actual gameplay. This first part, which is the first story or the prologue, and again, if you want to stay spoiler free, I don't want to ruin that for you, so we will stop here and come back to this bit at the end of the video. Now, one thing that I'm already finding very interesting and very unusual when it comes to the board game world about this one is how aloof it is. This is already giving me a huge sense of a computer game in a box. Because if you think of a computer game, you don't know all of the stuff that are coming into it. You don't know all the things you have available to her, which is the opposite of most board games. Most board games, you get your instruction manual, you open it up, and the very first thing you see, if not even on the back of the box, is all of the components. You know pretty much everything that you have to go, that's involved in the game, that's going in there, the different things, the different people that might show up. Everything is right there. This is the exact opposite. It has you start the game playing. It really doesn't give you any kind of, that I've seen so far, rules. It gave me a little bit of a lore and says, hey, build your initial miniatures and get going right into the game. It's probably going to do a little bit of setup so you can actually play, but for the most part, it's kind of leading you through that. That is pretty cool. And I see the same thing when it comes to the other components in the box. Well, here we have the dice for the game, but once again, you have no idea what these dice are used for. So we have, let's see here, 5d10 dice with a lantern here. Then we have one white D10 and one red D10, both with the lantern on the 10 slot. Is this one? Yeah, lantern at the 10 slot. And then we have the 4 dice for what I know to be the hit locations. So we have the foot, the waist, the head, the hand, the chest, and the chest once again. So the chest can come up twice. Everything else has a single spot, and we have 4 of those. But then here, I like this. I like the tray here. It looks like it's designed large enough to hold everything in the box. Has room for all of those tokens. It'll be interesting to see if I will be able to, especially with this kind of a game, I like to protect my stuff as much as possible. It definitely looks like the cards can be sleeved and they'll still fit in here, but it'll be interesting to see if we can take the tokens and put them in token cases or coin capsules and protect those and still fit in there. I'm betting not, but most people aren't as obsessed as I am and really try to protect. That you will probably see in mine, my tokens in coin cases to really protect them. But when you're talking about a $400 game, you want to try to keep it as protected as possible. Well, over here we have our standard size cards. These ones are going to be all of our dilemmas, the AI cards, the hit location cards. They have, let's see here, that's what we got going there. Let's see, the special hunt cards, because there are special hunt cards, and then there are the individual monster hunt cards, and then the AI cards. Then over here we have the Watcher, and now notice this one very specifically has just a black card on both sides, so I'm guessing this needs to stay spoiler free. So if I open this and go through it, it will definitely be at the end of the video. Again, you know, wanting to keep everything as spoiler free as possible, so we're going to go ahead and move that over there. Then we have our settlement cards, or settlement events, starting with our first day settlement. These again, most of these cards will probably be saved towards the end of the video, if I decide to open them and unbox them and go through them. I haven't decided how spoiler free I want to be. Usually I like in my unboxing to really show you everything, but the main goal here is to show you what's in the game. You don't have to see everything. And this is definitely one of those games that you do want to try to probably stay as spoiler free as possible, so you can enjoy the game as much as possible. Then we have our locations. So that's what these are, and some of these are just huge. I know I've done already a little bit of research for card sleeves, and there is one company, I think Paladin Protective Sleeves or something along those lines, and they offer sleeves for all of the different sizes, if I remember right. And they were like the only company where you can get a sleeve for all of the different sizes, where most only have sleeves for the standard American size right here. There is that. Next we have all of our items, and these ones rare gear cards, and again it has that same black front and back. So these are definitely most likely spoiler type items. Definitely I'm going to leave these, if I show them at all, towards the end of the video. And if I decide I'm not going to show you any of the spoiler stuff at the end, because I keep talking about at the end of the video, I apologize for that. It's not my goal here to deceive you to think something's coming up when it's not. I'm definitely going to have to give some thought to how much I go, because even I myself don't want to spoil it for me. So I might not want to literally go through it all and potentially see it all. But one of the things I'm definitely going to try to bring to the channel is a review of the game, is a how to play, which might come in the form of the first watch, and then of course playthroughs. Being that there is no real instructions on this, they say learn to play the game by playing the game. So that probably is going to be the best way to go out and do it, and it's probably how I will go about and do it. But then, of course, then we have the rest of the gear, and there is a ton of gear in here, ton of these gear cards. So that is definitely, if you're interested in protecting your stuff, those Paladin cards. I'll put a link in the description for where you can go to for a website that has in there all the different games, the expansions you can add to them, and where you can see the different card sizes. They have a whole bunch of different companies, and they show what might or might not be available. Because again, with this type of game, with everything that there is here, you definitely want to try to keep it as protected as possible, and I want to help you guys out with that. Alright, and we're going to start taking a look at the tokens. Here we have our Endeavor tokens. These, if I remember right, are used when you come back from a successful hunt. You get one of these for every character coming back that you use in your settlement stage. Then we have this little reference cheat sheet board, your priority target token, and then some reroll reminder tokens. Let's go ahead and do a punch test. Now, it is not the simplest punch, but it did come out very clean, so I do like that. Very nice. Next up, we have all of our status tokens and our blood tokens. One of the things that I am kind of liking right now, right off the rip, is that most of these tokens are round. I should be able to put these in my coin capsules, protect them. I like when they have, kind of like these blood tokens, because they look like what they're supposed to be, but these are hard to protect. I will probably try to find some kind of alternate, some kind of maybe a plastic component, something else that I can use in place of these, because there is no way for me to actually protect these. And as we can see, one of them looks like it already came a little damaged right there, but for the most part everything else is pretty clean. Go ahead and take a look, and I don't know if there is a difference to the sides, because they are the same except for there's kind of like a black side and then a white side. We'll flip this over here in a minute. See, and then it is the same on the other side, except it's just more of a white designed instead of the black. So those are all of our status tokens. And finally, we have all of our location tokens. Again, these are a little more varied in size because they go with the board. So this would take up 4 of the little square slots on the player board, and long ways, and then a square, and then just a single slot, so forth and so on. And then of course our monster controller token. One thing that I do find a little interesting is that this is all the terrain in the game. That's really not a whole lot of terrain, or potential terrain in here. The back is just black, nothing to see here. Take a closer look. The pillars, then some tufts of grass, some dead creature there. It's kind of eerie looking. Some corpses, those are vicious. And then a bug. And one of the ones that's interesting is this tree right here. I believe they've actually gone out and made an actual expansion for this, so you can actually get a miniature of it with its own AI deck and everything. So that is kind of interesting that they've actually taken at least that bit of terrain to the next level. But just by looking at it, again, just by saying how little terrain there is, you'll only ever get one bug in any given battle. There will only ever be 2 corpses of what looks to be a human or player type corpse, because they have the lantern there, so fallen comrade type thing. I just find it kind of interesting that there's so few pieces of terrain. We have the miniatures themselves. Again, these are going to be on sprue, unassembled, so more like Warhammer or something like that, where you're gonna have to actually put these together. Again, adding that hobby aspect to it. Let's go ahead and crack this open and take a look at what we have. So there we go. And it looks like everything is packaged really nicely. It is all in this nice sealed bag. I do like that an awful lot. Let's go ahead and we will move this and pull out just the bag. And then even within here, everything is all in its own individual bag. That is pretty impressive. Now these, I don't see any kind of labeling anywhere of what everything is. Let's just go ahead and start taking things out kind of one by one. So first off, we have tons of bases of varying size. I do like how they have the size on them, and then kind of like a little design. I believe that's supposed to go on the bottom. And then of course some bases. I'm thinking these ones are for our initial survivors, but there's an awful lot of them. So maybe these are for, these textured bases are for our survivors. Because then there are some without. And it looks like that is all that is in here. So yeah, so I think that is it. That's all that we have. So we have our 50 mil with their little back. The, I believe 30. You're going to say, yep, 30. With the heads. And then the 30 with the backing. And then this monstrosity, probably 100 maybe. So there are the bases. And this is going to be difficult to keep. Okay, here we go. We're going to have to take a quick break. I'm going to need to get something so I can actually open all of these bags, so these are sealed. Because once I open them, I'm going to want to, stick them back in to help keep everything protected until I am ready to build everything. Up first, we have the Watcher sprue. So I'm assuming this has everything that you need it to make him. But again, since I haven't actually been through the instructions, and I haven't even been through all of the sprue, we haven't gotten through all of them. There might be a Watcher sprue too. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But here we can see that. Very cool. Here we have the lanterns and masks kit. We can go ahead and take a look at these. So there we have the masks. And then the lanterns. Here we have survivor number 7, survivor number 8, and the Gold Smoke Knight. Now, one thing I will mention while we're going through here, I am kind of going through these sprue as they are in the box. They are all kind of individually wrapped together with no real pattern. So as you can see here, I'm already at survivor number 7 and 8, not 1, 2, 3, 4, so forth and so on. Haven't even gotten to the White Lion yet. But so we're just kind of going through them as they are just in the box. Something else that I found interesting here within this bag, there was also an additional base for the Gold Smoke Knight and the bases for these two. And the only thing that I can think of is the reason is because with these bases, there are two of them. So I'm guessing they want to make sure you realize that these kind of go together, so they're kind of putting them in. So most likely these are going to be glued in kind of like that. So again, you have kind of that logo there on the back, that base, and then this base add-on will probably fit in on top of that. It's the only thing I can think of, other than it's like, why would you not just put these also within that huge big bag of bases that you had? Unless you wanted to make it easier for people to make them realize that this base is kind of like a combo. It's got, those add-ons, those parts. Let's go ahead and take a look at the sprue. So here we have that gold smoke night. And then survivor number 8. And then survivor number 7. In this section we have the leather kit, and just in case you are wondering, there is what they are written on the sprue. So there we can see it is a leather kit. So that's how I'm knowing what everything is. Well, this is the leather kit, and that is, again, this is part of what adds to the hobby aspect of this. As you are upgrading your characters, you are getting items. So as you are defeating monsters, you might be getting, pelts, raw hides, skulls, bones, all this kind of stuff, and you use that to make items in the game. And so then here are some of those items, so you can actually represent them onto your miniature. And that is, again, as part of the hobby. So now you can decide, how do I want to build, how do I want to put together all of my figures? Because you might want to change what items people get, whether they get, say, this axe or the dagger, or so forth and so on. So it comes into the whole magnetization, and magnetizing all of the different arms, weapons, things that go together, so that way you can mix and match things. Again, where the hobby aspect of the game comes in. Well, up next we have the unarmored kit. Take a look here. Now, until we get to the actual armor sections, I don't think there's a lot of duplicate or additional parts for customization or whatever. But I do know that they do have, and I think we've even seen a couple of them already, but like armor kits, and which is kind of what this one is, the unarmored kit. So you can make different varieties of people, or once again use these as potential magnetization options, so that way you can have your one base figure and then just switch out the parts that you want for that given hunt or mission scenario, whatever it is that you're currently dealing with. Well, here we have the rawhide kit. So as your people again slowly start learning new things, increasing their knowledge, their equipment, they can slowly start getting new items. And here is that. Here we have the prologue kit, it looks like this is going to have the White Lion, 2 of our starting survivors, and then the Butcher, which I do not believe is actually part of the prologue. I don't think he comes into like year 4, but so there, I believe that's the Butcher, and then our 2 male survivors, and then of course the lion's tail, and then his hands, and his body. So I didn't see his face anywhere. Here we have what is labeled the Hand, Intimacy, and the Screaming Antelope. Let's take a closer look at these. Here is the Phoenix kit. That sounds exceptionally cool. I can't wait to see what exactly this is in the game. So it'll be interesting to see how we put all of this stuff together, because you might not know what you need, what you're doing, where you're at. So it might be one of those ones where you get to the point in the game and you have items and you finally bought them, and all of a sudden you realize, hey, now I gotta go to the kit, take a break, find the Phoenix parts or the leather armor parts or whatever, put those together, paint them up, and then get them onto the board. So it'll be an interesting, different way of play, where you're slowly doing the hobby side and the building and the designing and painting and all that you want to do while you're playing, like during the actual play part of it. Because again, you don't know what it is you need, where you're going, so forth and so on, which people need what. So it's I find it very intriguing the way that they kind of have this all put together and how it all flows. Here we have another Phoenix kit. So once again, this would be additional add-ons that you're going to get from defeating him. Or at least that is my guess. Lots of different axes there. So it looks like they are giving you lots of items. A nice shield, I like that. Lots of items, so you can have multiple people built and carrying them. Though I think you only play with 4 at a time. So I wonder why you would need 7 of what appears to be the same axe. I don't know. There it is. The additional Phoenix kit. Here we have the first of 3 sprues. I believe at least that is 3 sprue for the Phoenix. So we've also already looked at the Phoenix armor, I believe. So I'm guessing if you manage to defeat him, you will wind up with parts so you can make armor off of what you have earned here. So I'm guessing that's how the game is going to go. As you defeat things, you are going to gain resources and be able to make your people stronger. Well, let's go ahead and take a look here at the Phoenix sprue, the first here. And here we have a whole slew of hands and a whole bunch of different parts. And it is very interesting here where I know like a lot of these hands fit in to the wings and different parts, but some hands are already on there, but some hands they had to separate. I don't know, I don't understand the point of that, other than they just wanted to make it hobby, you know, to give you things that you have to put together, that you have to add on. I don't know. But that's, from what I understand, that makes this one of the more difficult of the models to put together because of all of those hands and getting them all into their correct locations. So that is the first sprue. So here we will pull out the second. Wow, that is pretty massive. And just look at that. See, I love that detail here on the wings and then the feathers. And how you can see each one of the feathers is not flat. It has structure. It has, you know, each feather is kind of individual on itself. So that does look really nice. I really do like that. And then here we can see all sorts of holes for all of those hands. And then finally, the third sprue for the Phoenix. Now, once again, for the instructions for all of these models, you do need to go to their website, build.kingdomdeath.com. They didn't actually put that here in the box. I do find that a little bit peculiar. Again, because we're talking about a game that costs so much, I'm just surprised that they didn't just go ahead and include the building instructions in here. Here we have Kingsman, and I'm guessing he is actually going to be one of the harder bosses, final bosses maybe, because he came on his own sprue and actually in a Ziploc bag, wanting to keep him a little more protected. So here he is. Again, where he actually fits in the game as of right now, I do not know. But just with the way that he is packaged and in his own little Ziploc bag, I'm guessing he's going to be one of the more powerful ending type bosses. So it'll probably be a while before we get to him. And here we have the Lion kit. Once again, bringing me to that thought that I'm pretty sure is going to be in here, where I'm guessing these are items that you'll be able to make after defeating the White Lion. Another Lion kit. Oh, this one looks exceptionally cool. I love that I'm seeing bows in here. I'm really looking forward to being able to get that out, see how that works in the game. And this harp thing right there, that looks extremely interesting. I can't wait to see what that is. Up next, we have the Screaming Fur kit. This one, I guess, is going to accompany the Screaming Gazelle. No, whatever that monster was. Screaming Antelope. That's what it was. Now, this one and the Lion kit were also both in Ziploc bags. So maybe I was wrong about that last guy. Maybe he wasn't key. Maybe he isn't a final boss. Maybe it's just because of the size of the sprue, so they put him in Ziplocs rather than just normal bags. But so again, it'll be very interesting to see how the game plays out, how it progresses, and that you just get this sense of anticipation. You want to get into it just by looking over what you have, all the stuff you have. You want to be able to get in here. You want to see how did they get these items. You know, how do you create them? How can you add these to your characters? How can you bring this to the game? It's very interesting, very exciting. I'm really enjoying this. A lot more than I thought I would. Here we've even more for the Screaming Fur kit. And it looks like this is going to be more along the line of weapons that you'll be getting afterwards, or being able to create from defeating him. Here we have the Lantern kit. Once again, now we are starting to get into the weapons and upgrades for your survivors as they go through the game. Now, when you are looking at everything and trying to find the parts that you need as you are progressing through your game, it actually goes back into the box fairly easily because of the way that they have designed it. You can see they kind of have these little feet here on all the sprues, and so as long as you are careful when you're taking them out, you can see that they go back together nicely. So as you're going through, you can stack them back up and then know that this will go right back to where it goes, and it's all nice and flush. And because of these feet, it will help keep the sprues separate from one another, again protecting the plastic so you don't get any kind of scratches or anything in here prematurely that you would have to go back in and fix later on. For this unboxing, I thought I would add something a little out of the ordinary for me, something I usually don't show unless I'm doing a what's in the box, and those are usually if I get a large Kickstarter that has a very large box with multiple items in it. But with this game, I feel like, especially because of the cost of the game, the shipping and the way that it arrives is kind of important. When you buy this game, most likely you are going to get it straight from the company, and that's exactly how this came. Here is the box that it came in. It has core game written on it. There's no real deciding facts or anything to let you know that, hey, this is what this is. Just that it is item 1, the core game. Well, let's go ahead and open this up so we can take a look to see how it comes. And as you can see, there is actually no protective material whatsoever on the top. That, except for this little piece of, nothing right there. But like here on the sides, we can see this styrofoam that's going to be there. Really probably not going to do anything if this thing falls onto a corner. This is about a 20-pound game. 20 pounds falling onto a corner isn't really going to do any kind of protection here. And especially here on the top, if it gets banged or something goes in here, there is nothing to protect the top of the box. Let us go ahead and see if we can. Yeah, and that just comes out nice and easy. And then we will go ahead and see if we can now lift this 20-pound monstrosity out of here. Dear Lord have mercy. And as we can see, the back or the bottom is the same. All we have is this little bit. It's probably there to protect if somebody was to cut with a razor blade, that they cut into this rather than the box, but there's still no protective padding if any major dents come in. And at a $400 game, I really feel like that could have been especially useful, especially here when we look in the corner where the box is sealed. We can see it actually has metal brads. Let me see if I can get that on camera so you can see those. There we go. We can see those metal brads now. We will take a look. There was nothing in here, really. There was that styrofoam right there, maybe to protect us from those brads. I'll definitely go ahead and take a close look at the corner. And again, this is how it came out. So those brads were over here on this side. And luckily, I really do not see any damage there, anything going on. So that is nice. So it did come well protected. Very shiny with that saran wrap on there still. You can see my rig. And the back, very gorgeous. Very MA 17 plus mature content. So it doesn't appear to have any kind of damage whatsoever. So that is good. So I do like to see that. So luckily, you know, the shipping came pretty well, pretty good. So there was no concerns there. But I could see the potential for that, you know, especially in this. And like I said, it was nice that the shipping came as part of the cost of the game, so it didn't cost anything extra to ship. And it did come undamaged, protected. But again, I could foresee that if something was to happen, if this was to get dropped, which, you know, some could argue that in most items that get shipped, they're going to get damaged. But when you're dealing with things of this high dollar value, you kind of want there to be a little more padding than this very thin styrofoam, especially that is just on the sides, especially when you're dealing with, you know, how simplistically gorgeous this box is. And you can just see here within the black, that logo on the back, all it has is that picture on there. It's, you know, and that's where the beauty of it is. There's nothing there on the sides of here. It's just black. You know, so if I was to have anything that would potentially get damaged, you know, I would want these to be, again, on the top and bottom rather than on the sides, because those are the two areas that I would have wanted to ensure protection on the most. But again, this is just, you know, a nitpicky stuff to go over and to look at, you know, because clearly it came fine, came perfect, and I am super excited to crack this open and take a look inside. Well, that is everything for my spoiler-free, or what I tried to be as spoiler-free as possible, unboxing of Kingdom Death Monster. I hope this unboxing has helped you to determine if this is a game that you would be interested in. I have talked to a little bit of my viewers, a little bit of the community, to see if you would want a more detailed, a more spoiler-esque view of this, to look at some of the cards, some of the things that might be a little more spoiler, and it was a profound yes. So I'm going to take a brief intermission right now, giving everybody who wants to say spoiler-free a chance to stop the video, carry on, hopefully to some other things. But if you do want to see everything else that is available within this game, stay tuned. It's coming up. And my camera is freaking out.